July was your indie sleaze strut pop phase. August was your cyberpunk vocal drum and bass season. What does that even mean? In 2016, there were 1,482 Spotify genres, and today there are 6,110. Now, you may wonder where all of these new genres are coming from, and it turns out that Spotify have been creating new genres using machine learning since the early 2010s. And these can range from really, really specific genres like POV indie, Ottercore, if I'm even saying that right, to Viking metal, things like that. But then you also have much broader genres like pop or rock, which are really not that descriptive anymore. The definition of genre on Spotify also seems to have changed now that they're using user data to create these new genres. Originally, genres were created by musical features, linking songs together and seeing which songs were similar, whereas now new genres are often based on users' listening patterns. In this video, I'm going to be discussing the creation of new genres, how that affects the listening experience of you and me, and why Spotify Wrapped is kind of useless to the average user. Now, Spotify Wrapped has just come out, and I did want to make this video before that happened, but I didn't get round to it because I'm bad with time management. This year, it was very clear that people weren't very happy with their Spotify Wrapped. There was a lot of stupid genre names that people didn't understand, but they also actually got rid of the genre classifications completely, so your top 5 genres, which is actually really interesting and something that I will touch on later in the video. The first section that I wanted to cover is genres of different sizes. Now, I'm sure that we can all agree that pop and rock are incredibly broad, and when we're talking in normal conversation or describing our music taste, we often won't use words like pop and rock. We'll use the more well-known, well, not more well-known, but we'll use well-known subgenres like heavy metal, indie pop. And if I was to say that that was my music taste in a normal conversation, you would have a deeper understanding into who I am and what kind of music you would listen to. So these subgenres are very well known. First issue that I have with Spotify and with Spotify Wrapped is when it does compare the genres, it compares genres of incredibly different sizes. So I often get pop as one of my top genres on Spotify Wrapped in previous years, but then this is compared to other things that are much smaller, like liquid funk, for example. Like, a lot of you might not even know what that is, and I don't know what so many of the other genres are on Spotify. So how can these be compared to give us a clear picture of our music taste? Songs on Spotify can have multiple genres associated to them. So I think that a problem could be that the broader genres like pop and rock are kind of used as an umbrella term to fit in loads of different songs, and this means that there are more songs that you're listening to that will fit into pop, even though it doesn't necessarily seem like mainstream pop or songs that you would associate with pop, whereas other songs that are from a more niche genre, they need songs that really fit with them specifically to be included in that category. This means that broader genres are often in your top 5 genre list in Wrapped, but the more niche genres will not show up as much because they just haven't had the opportunity, even though you've been listening to it loads. So this kind of means that you don't necessarily get a very nuanced view of your music taste. If it says rock, you don't know what type of rock it is, and this isn't really that interesting. One of the questions I have is whether the genres that are shown in the normal Wrapped are mutually exclusive. So does it mean that, oh, you've listened to this much pop music, this much POV indie music, like, could there be any crossover, and is that affecting the results? It would be important to know this, otherwise you can't really form a clear picture of your own music taste. One of the things I would really like is for there to be hierarchies of genres on Spotify. So You have your pop, rock, whatever, and then these break down into other subgenres. Obviously, we know a lot of these subgenres, but especially in Wrapped, I think it would be really interesting to see the sort of clear main ones that you listen to most, and then your most popular subgenres within those categories, so that you know what to search for in the future and what you're most likely to listen to. This means that you can be more specific in searching for new music in the future and actually find a lot more songs that you enjoy. The second topic that I wanted to talk about is having genres that nobody understands. So previously I mentioned that there are over 6,000 genres on Spotify. Now, if I asked you to name music genres, as many music genres as you can, how many could you name? I reckon the average person would be about 20, maybe 30. Like, that doesn't sound like a lot, but I think it would actually be harder than you think. So a normal person cannot comprehend 6,000 music genres. It's just like noise, literally. And that means that we cannot communicate about these genres. The problem with having 6,000 music genres is often artists don't even know what they are either. You could argue that the genre names are not made for the artists but more for the fans to classify songs, discuss them, and build a community around. But you would assume that the fans know what these genres mean, and often they don't. I was looking on Reddit and there was a post asking all the people who had non-standard music genres in their Spotify Wrapped last year, what did you get? And there were so many replies. People were not making head or tail of the ones that they got. But one reply I found particularly interesting as it really displayed the confusion surrounding all of these genres. This is what it said. There are so many genres created already, and every site, every script categorises artists in them differently. It's so hard to comprehend all of this. I prefer to use only the major genres. This leads to the question, how can we describe our music taste if we don't understand the genres we're listening to? I've always thought that this confusion was a me problem because I do find it really hard to identify subgenres of music. Like, I often can't hear the difference and I don't know how to describe my own music taste. But something that happened recently made me realise that I was not alone. And this happened on this habit tracking app that I use called Habitica. And on it, you can join challenges. And there was one challenge called Don't Be Genre Phobic, where the person who made the challenge chose a new music genre and created a playlist of that music genre. And your challenge was to listen to it for 2 hours. One week, the genre was called Permanent Wave. In the description, they said that they had found it really difficult to create the playlist because there wasn't a very clear definition on what permanent wave actually was. I tried to have a look into this category, and most of the articles I found about permanent wave were just confusion articles trying to describe what it actually means, and it turns out that a lot of people had actually been confused when it came up on their Spotify Wrapped. It was interesting listening to these songs from this playlist because some of them were so different. Like, I would not have classified them as the same genre. I mean, maybe the same broader genre, but not the same specific genre, like permanent wave. I'd never heard of it, and that seems like something that would be very niche, and a lot of these songs sounded very different. This lack of a simple definition of the genre made it really hard for me to describe what I actually liked about the songs, because the description of the genre didn't really tell me much about what the songs would include or why I would like them. So at the end of the challenge on the app, you're supposed to do a review, and I honestly had no idea what to say because I just didn't have the vocabulary to say why the songs I liked were similar. This then makes it really hard to find other songs. Obviously, there is the song radio feature on Spotify, which is really good, and I use that a lot. But I think you should be able to describe your own music taste, and you should be able to seek out songs that are similar to the songs you like using your knowledge of the genre and your own like well-known classification system that everybody has. In an interview with Glenn MacDonald, who is Spotify's former genre researcher, he said that the algorithm assesses music based on subjective psychoacoustic attributes, essentially the auditory qualities of the song, but also that some genres on Spotify are indeed made up because they emerge from users' listening patterns. So here he's saying that he's basically listening to what people listen to, and if fans of a certain song also listen to another song, that could be a similar genre or the same genre, or genres could be created that way. Once he's grouped together these songs from the user's listening patterns, he can make up a new genre. He says, I can name them and then I can watch them and see if they turn into a thing. One genre may not turn out to be a single thing, it may be a bunch of things that will resolve into their own bits, and then the tentative genre will go away, but it's interesting to watch. This is a really interesting look into how Spotify genres are made and how data can be used to predict trends and group things together. But this idea of tentative genres is really weird to me, and I don't think it should be a building block to a worldwide music platform. Genres to me should be defined once artists start going off in different creative direction or going off on a tangent, and fans need a way to refer to that tangent so that they can describe their music taste and find other music that's similar. To me, that's what a genre is, and it shouldn't just be created when it's not needed or when fans aren't calling out for something to be defined. While I am criticising the work that Spotify has done to create these new genres, Glenn MacDonald's website Every Noise at Once is a really great resource for finding new music. It shows you how all the different Spotify genres are linked together based on different attributes, and it's really just a great way of how data can be used to create these visualizations. There are also a lot of playlists on there to help you discover new music or just hear the general sound of a certain genre. The next thing that I wanted to talk about is the genre echo chamber and how Spotify Wrapped seems to be skewed by Spotify's own playlist generation mechanics. Spotify's algorithm for recommendations is based on your listening history, so if you've listened to a song a lot of times before, it will keep recommending it to you to listen to again. So this can lead to a sort of echo chamber where you're listening to the same songs over and over again, or songs very similar to it. The only way to get out of this echo chamber is to actively listen to new music. You won't be able to get out of it by just listening to songs that Spotify has recommended to you. That's obviously the whole problem with the echo chamber effect. But it can be quite hard to actively search for new songs that are really different to your music taste or different enough to get Spotify to start recommending you songs you want to listen to again. One way to listen to new music is to use your Discover Weekly and Release Radar playlists on Spotify, but I often find that these are still playing me the exact same genres of music, and by that I mean songs that literally sound the same as each other. And I looked online and a lot of people have also been having the problem. It does seem interesting to me that Spotify have chosen to recommend you songs that you've already listened to and recommending them more if you've listened to them more, because when I am obsessed with a song, I will actively listen to it loads, but once I've decided that I don't want to listen to it anymore, I don't want it to keep coming up in the playlists. Like, people enjoy new music. They don't want to just be listening to the same thing all the time. And I think that's a pretty shared opinion with most people. I don't know who would want to listen to the same songs over and over again. There's also the issue of the algorithm using proven songs in their recommendations. So this is songs that are popular elsewhere. I find this a lot with TikTok music. Like, I don't use TikTok. I've never been on TikTok. I don't have an account. But I keep hearing songs and saving them and liking them and then showing it to someone who does have TikTok, and it turns out that it's been like part of a trend, which seems really weird to me because out of all of the songs in the world that have been created, they're just showing everyone these TikTok songs that are popular from another platform. And I think this goes to show that songs aren't recommended based on their musical content, but rather their marketing capability. All of these different methods of recommendation can make it seem like you're more into certain genres than you actually are, or more into certain songs than you actually are. And this can then skew the data in your Spotify Wrapped, and you might see genres that you didn't even think you liked, or some songs on your top songs of the year might just be something you recognise but don't like it just comes up and you just have to listen to it if your music's on in the background. Obviously, you don't have to listen to it, but sometimes you just let the music play. Sometimes I feel like my music taste is not actually developed by me, but it's been developed by what Spotify wanted to show me. Like, they have curated my music taste because they're just showing me the same songs as everybody else. Like, I know that it is my responsibility to search for new music, but sometimes you just want there to be a real variation in what they recommend you. And I don't want to just be listening to the same songs as everybody else. Like, that's boring. And there are so many amazing songs out there that we would all love, or some of us would love and some of us would hate, but it would be good to listen to anyway. It would be more interesting and to use the larger genres like rock, pop as the basis for recommendations rather than using those really niche genres that I talked about where everything can just sound the same. Next section is Are Music Genres Dead? In an interview with Kill the DJ, Nicole Rusin McFarland, who's a film composer, said this: "In the olden days, critics and journalists were the ones who said something was a genre. Artists had to have an entire album sticking to the same sound without much room because the media disliked any albums that moved around. Genres were invented by industry professionals to try and drive sales, but now pigeonholing an artist to one genre is not good for sales. Often artists are described as genre bending or genre fluid, and this is now a selling point. So the kind of boundaries have changed on what sells, and therefore our definition and our use of genres has changed as well. There could be many reasons for this change. I think that artists might want to challenge themselves, push themselves in new directions, and also because there's so much music out there, they really need to try and create a unique sound for themselves, and this can often include taking inspiration from different sources and creating something that cannot be placed in a certain category. Magnetic Magazine suggested that millennials and Generation Zers, I've never heard it called Generation Zers, millennials and Gen Z and curators identify less and less with genres, instead categorising their musical tastes by mood, lyrics and cultural signifiers that speak to identity. This has been latched onto by Spotify, I think, and there are so many playlists that are based on mood or a certain feeling or a certain setting. Some examples that I found just while looking at Spotify for about 10 seconds were My Life as a Movie, Hot Pink, Frolic, Screaming, and Neon Cowgirl. And there were so many more, but I wanted to end on Neon Cowgirl because what the hell does that even mean? These new playlists do make people discover music based on a certain feeling, which they might really enjoy, but it would make it really hard to answer the question, what music do you like, without sounding like you don't know anything about music. And I think that this might be the reason why I've seen people answering that question with the names of certain artists rather than the names of a whole genre. I don't know if you've noticed this or if I'm just making it up, but it does seem like people are answering more with a certain artist's name, and it kind of seems like they don't listen to that many artists, but obviously that's not true. It's just an easier way to answer the question. Despite these changes on how we listen to music and also many artists criticising the existence of genres, it's very hard for us not to make these categorisations in our head. I think it's just become natural now. Billie Eilish has been quoted as saying, "I hate the idea of genres. I don't think a song should be put into a category." Yet we're still eager to find out what songs we listen to in Spotify Wrapped. I think everyone is just really wants to categorise their music taste, and people find that interesting. Maybe this is why Spotify are creating these micro genres, because we just love categorising things. We love finding out what we're listening to and what weird name they've called it. And because we love categorising things, they just have to adapt to the new way that we're listening to music, where it is based more off a feeling rather than musical content in the songs. The final section is why Spotify does genres this way and why they put it into Wrapped. And I think that the answer to that can be summarized in one word, and that is marketing. Every year, Spotify users get really excited to see their Wrapped. They post it all over social media, it's all over news articles. Everyone wants to know like what these weird little genres are, and that is basically free marketing for them. Like, I know they have to pay the developers, which would be quite a lot, but it really makes it a unique feature to their platform that I don't think other music streaming platforms have, at least not on as large a scale. It makes Spotify different to its competitors and also makes us believe that it's at the forefront of the music industry and is necessary to creating these new genres and new ways of listening to music. I love seeing my Spotify Wrapped even if I don't understand all of it or don't agree with it, and I think it's the same for everyone. Like, we just love unnecessary data about ourselves. It's like a little secret into what our life is actually like, as if we didn't already know. The intricate data collected by Spotify is really cool, but I think the over tailoring of the user experience is negatively impacting users' music tastes. I would love for Spotify to become less individually focused and less predictive, as I think it would make it easier to find new music. And I think it's important for people to keep an open mind and an open ear to new songs to expand their taste. I think it would make people more creative and also more appreciative of different genres and different people, even if they didn't like it. By having genres that develop organically rather than being classified by an algorithm, we would be able to discuss the differences between songs more easily and also the culture surrounding them. We would be able to understand the origins and influences of music we like and also be able to classify songs into genres and know why we liked them. This brings me to the end of this video. I hope you've enjoyed hearing my thoughts, and if you had any weird things come up in your Spotify Wrap this year, please leave a comment so I can check out some new music. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.